Hello and welcome to the Dr. Ayaz Safi podcast. In this episode, I have the pleasure of engaging in a detailed conversation with Mr. Mohammed Zeb. Mohammed is the co-founder and director of the Stuart Miller Criminal Defense firm. In this episode, Mohammed and I delve into a detailed conversation about his remarkable career, the criminal and justice system here in the UK, and how it applies to the ethnic minority groups in particular. We also talk about Shamima Begum and whether she should be allowed to come back to the UK or not. Mohammed, thank you for joining me.
Well, firstly, my apologies for giving you the runaround. I mean, you've asked me on multiple occasions, but life is such that you're juggling between two different cities and family issues as well. So the apology has to go out to you first.
No, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Honestly, it's a pleasure. And thank you. It's very kind of you that I know you are such a busy man and you're running around two different cities and you still took your time. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Tell it to my wife and the kids.
Mohammed, let me ask you this. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and why did you choose a career in the law firm in particular?
Not a problem. I'm gonna work backwards.
Yes.
First of all, becoming a solicitor, I didn't have a choice. The reason being is alhamdulillah, I've got a very successful family. I've got 5 brothers.
Yeah.
We're all barristers and solicitors, and we're quoted as being in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh, mashallah.
And that was down to my father, Ajir Khan. It was his dream, in fact, that his sons be lawyers. And before you go into it and ask me, well, why not a medicine?
Yeah.
I don't think we were that far astute, academically inclined, to be honest with you. And then when it came to accountancy, I don't think my brothers and I wanted to count other people's money. And therefore, law it was. And here we are today. And that's how it was.
And a very successful career as well.
Advocating or representing somebody. I mean, my father's been coming up to 17 years, but I'm still scared of him.
Yeah.
I'm still scared of if I do something, what's my dad going to say? I mean, that's the way we were brought up.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying we were the victim of violence or abuse.
No, definitely.
What I'm saying was that there were certain principles in place,
Yes.
and we adhered to those principles, and we've still got those principles today.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I can relate to that is I've been brought up with my brother here in this country, and he had these set principles.
Yeah.
For example, in winter, you got to be home before 7 o'clock, unless you have university or unless you're working.
Yeah.
Till date, I live in now since I've been married, I live in a separate house.
Yeah.
I got job and stuff. When it's 7 o'clock, I have that kind of not the fear, but that inclination, I need to be home by 7 o'clock.
In law, they're saying you need to have a reasonable excuse or lawful authority to be out after 7 o'clock.
Absolutely.
I think that's the correct terminology.
It is, and then if by whatever reason we were late, for example, then we had to give a justification to my brother.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he would ask questions in order for us to avoid him. Avoid giving him all the answers. We used to be home earlier.
Going through the Spanish Inquisition, basically. Where have you been? Who have you been through? Why have you been with them?
Absolutely.
Show me your phone.
Yes.
What route did you take? What bus did you catch?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's important. It made us who we are today, for example. And I think that's simply what
100%
as well. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Your firm, Stuart Miller, has a reputation for handling high-profile cases and complex cases as well. What are some of the most challenging or maybe some of the most memorable cases that you have worked throughout your career?
I mean, again, taking a step back, Stuart Miller's been around for 40 years. It's our 40th anniversary. I've had it for 22 years. You're going to be invited to the ball, the gala.
Thank you.
So keep it in your diary.
Yes, definitely.
But that's still in the planning stages. And as far as complex cases has been concerned, I think it's unfair to say that because the firm deals with everything from as little as failing to send your children to school to the most serious of cases, and we give 100% to everything. Nice. It's our commitment, and it's our ethos. It always has been. It's on the website. Have a look at it.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and it has a very successful rate.
In terms of cases, I mean, serious cases. I mean, you've got issues of national security, international terrorism. You've got homicides, complex fraud spanning the globe. You've got other cases such as gang activity, sexual offences. I mean, the whole combination of it, the whole spectrum we deal with. So if you ask me to pick a case on a serious level, I could say a memorable case was where I was at the police station at Paddington Green. For those of you who don't know, Paddington Green dealt with the most serious of cases in central London. And the secure unit was actually a police station in the police station. So you had to go into the police station, get clearance, and then be led into the forecourt and down another passageway into another part of the police station. And it was a conspiracy on a global scale where the president of the United States of America actually said that if the United Kingdom government didn't take any action, they would. And if this conspiracy actually came to fruition, governments would have fallen.
Yes.
But thankfully, we got to not guilty on it. Not to not guilty. Our client was released from the police station, and it was a record-breaking detention. In them days, you could hold a person at the police station for up to a month.
Okay.
And it was released with no further action. But it was a very complex case.
Yeah.
And being at the police station for such a prolonged period of time. Before you interject, I know what you're going to say. Well, you're going to go home. Your client's the one in the cell.
This is it, yeah.
But I'm going into a police interview with high-ranking members from the National Terror Command Unit. And remember, this was at least 15 years ago. I'm still, fairly young. I was 17 years old then. And I'm dealing with high-ranking police officers who are firing questions at my client. I've got to take instructions from my client in an artificial environment where there's no air, no windows. He's been there for a prolonged period of time. I've got the client's interests at heart. I'm dealing with I'm dealing with disclosure as it's been served by the police. And then I've got to make a judgment. Do I advise the client to speak? No comment, prepared statement? What do you do? And in recent times, you can usually phone a friend. It's like text somebody and ask somebody, am I doing this right? There's no reception. The ball's in my court. Whatever I do will have a knock-on effect, if not a life-changing effect on my client's liberty for the rest of his life if I get this wrong. So that's a serious case.
Yeah. And one part of that is, okay, you dealt with that client, with the high-ranking police and everybody that was involved in. How did you because especially going back 15, 17 years, you were much more younger, maybe much more inexperienced compared to today, for example. So how did you cope with it mentally, coming back home and still thinking about that case? Because lots of people cannot differentiate that work-life balance, especially when they're dealing with such sensitive case and big cases.
I think that's a twofold question. I mean, firstly, dealing with work when you come home is one thing, but in particular, high-profile and complex cases, they're certainly mesmerizing. I mean, they make the hair on your back stand. You're dealing with somebody's life. And if you get this wrong, potentially your client's going to prison for at least 20 plus years.
Wow.
So how I deal with it is you've got to know your stuff.
Yes.
You've got to look into the offence. You've got to have access to potential defences. You've got to get your client's trust. Now, this is a limb where people actually fall foul upon. You will speak to the clients. You've probably never met him before. Or you've had slight dealings with him. But now you're dealing with life-changing issues. And you to explain to your client in the most succinct terms possible, speak to me how it is. Don't give me your edited, redacted version. Explain to me what's gone on in terms of what the evidence that the police have provided. And getting your client's trust is paramount with a view to understanding whether or not you can deal with this case and actually deal with any knock-on effect thereafter in terms of coming home and relaxing. Because the worst position you can be in is where a client says one thing. And camera footage shows something else.
Something else, absolutely,
But you've advised on the instructions provided, which clearly are going to be used against him, and credibility is at stake. So in response to your question, each case is different. You deal with it on its own merits. It's just something you've got to come to terms with.
Absolutely, and I think it's very important, for what you're outlining there, that the client themselves engage in the truth with the lawyers or solicitors.
You have to get your client's confidence. Matters not on how complex the case is. You need to explain to your client the ramifications of not being upcoming so you can assess the veracity of what's been said, so you can then form an opinion and advise accordingly. A little example is somebody was recently arrested in as far as a public order offence was concerned. Minor offence, two women next door neighbours fighting over you did this and you made too much noise or you never said good morning to me, and it turned into a little push. When it turned into the push, the client I had was a duty client, and the police called me, and I was advising her. And I tried to explain to her that, look, you need to be upfront with me. If you've pushed somebody, it's not the end of the world. Mistakes happen. Everybody deserves a second chance. But if you lie to me, and this matter goes as far as court, you are a European citizen applying to stabilize your status. A conviction is going to affect any application you make to the Home Office. So you need to be upfront with me because I need to think three-dimensionally. Clearly, her instructions somewhat changed. Armed with that information, I then went back to the officer in the case and asked to speak to the officer leading it and made representations to say, look, please, can it be dealt with by way of a community resolution as opposed to a caution or alternatively for the matter to go to court. I explained the background information, the impeccable character, the fact that they were neighbours. It was likely that they were going to resume friendship at some stage, coupled with the fact that everybody makes a mistake. And based upon that, no further action was taken.
Oh, that's good.
The point I'm trying to make is be upfront. And you've got to have somebody who understands not only criminal law, but aspects of different law, such as immigration in this case. I identified it. And I knew that if this person got a conviction, there were going to be long-term problems.
So, no, thank you for that. And coming to the criminality and the drugs dealing aspect, in your experience dealing with so many different cases, what is the common risk or circumstances that leads people to criminal activities or drug dealing, in particular the youth or the people from the ethnic minority groups here in Birmingham or London or across the UK?
Okay, again, a lawyer of 20 plus years experience, it used to be a case where there was a particular kind of person from a background who would be identified as a gang member, a drug dealer, involved in antisocial behaviour. Let me put it straight. Let me set the record straight.
Please.
There is no distinction in this day and age of what the background of a person is. It could be white, black, pink, blue, transgender, green, Christian, Sikh, Muslim, Hindu. When it comes to criminal activity, gang activity, there is no distinction. Okay. Moving on. Why do then young persons choose to get involved in criminal activity? Okay. There's a whole culmination of reasons. One is a particular family. It could be the environment you're brought in, friends and associates. It could be the case that you're just that way inclined. You just want to be a bad man. Bad man or girl, in fact. But you just like it. Alternatively, is the money aspect. You know, people come from very poor families. The cost of living's gone up. You know? People want the finer things in life without working for. Alternatively, it could be the case that you're forced into it. On some occasions, it may be the case that, look, it's cool. You know, I want to be a bad man. I want to be part of a girl, part of a group, sorry. But unfortunately, you don't understand the ramifications of it. So that's the dealings of how people get involved. Let's now deal with when they're involved, what they're in for. Okay? Once you're involved in criminal activity, you've got serious problems. Remember, you've got the biggest security force working against you, and that's the police. Okay? Now, when the police get hold of you, you know, touch wood, they don't, and you move on in life, and it's a phase, and you kind of leave it behind you. But if you're involved in criminal activity, organised crime, the chances are that you're going to be arrested, you're going to be convicted, and you're going to go to prison. Okay? Now, that's not a problem within a young person because certain offences become spent. Alternatively, they're dealt with by way of an out-of-court disposal. The youth offending team, youth offending service, or justice service get involved in that, is what they're called. And they're trying to deal with external ways of preventing you from getting into the criminal activity. But at some stage, what I've realised is once you're in there, you like it, you're making the money, you like the respect, you like the trainers, you like going into a bar or a pub or a shisha lounge thinking, I've got a nice golf, whatever it is outside, making funny noises, tuck, 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 and I'm really cool with my man bag and my gold teeth. But the novelty has to wear off. Because like everything, age creeps up on you. Okay? And there's so much antisocial behaviour you can get involved in before you look like an idiot on the road, standing up against the police and shouting and having your phone out. Or alternatively, you know, you've got commitments. Mum needs money at home, man. Mum needs legitimate money at home. Or you're in a relationship and your partner's, touch wood, you know, very up there where she wants a man, not a boy. And you've got to be that fatherly figure. And here's the problem. You've moved on, now you're trying to get a job. But your past does not let you go. There's only certain jobs you can get into, unless you go self-employed and become a superhero on social media and alternatively do something different.
Yeah.
But not everybody can get that kind of luck. So in short, don't get into trouble.
Yeah.
But if you do, make sure you try to get out of it.
Yes.
And move on. Yeah.
That's a very important point, because lots of young people that I see nowadays, and there's tons of that I speak with as well, everybody wants to be famous. Social media, TikToker, YouTuber, and so on. And then we have some influencer, which kind of tells them the shortcuts of how to become rich, wealthy, in terms of money. And that really has a knock-on effect on young people, especially when you ask them that education is important. Like, at the start, how you and I have the similarity, and we've been told, no, it's education. You got to do this, you got to be a certain time home, for example. And you mentioned about that manhood and father figure at home. And nowadays, I think we are kind of slipping away from that strictness or that principle
applied.
Yeah,
the straight path of education, job, experience, moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we look at in the media, like some of the influential figure, again, going back to the suggest that school is not important or going to university is not important. And then you're thinking, hang on a minute. Yep. Right. That I think that's a very important point. And especially like earlier we both mentioned at the start, having that father, the strictness, the leadership, rules and regulation that's been applied at home, that's very important.
Yeah.
But in your experience, also looking into what I see from the young people, everybody wants to be famous. They want to be rich from TikTok or YouTube. Yeah. Certain influencer that they kind of reference that I want to be like that person, but they don't know what journey they've been through. Yeah. So how much the social media platform, these certain influencers impact these young people, especially telling them education is not important.
Just taking a step back. First of all, the standard 2.4 family, having a mum and a dad and a brother and a sister, and there's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're living in a community where that doesn't apply.
Yeah.
In strictest terms, somebody doesn't have a father, somebody doesn't have a sister, or an older brother or a sister.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully they've got some form of mechanics in place where somebody can assist, be it a family friend, an older peer, somebody who can understand and guide younger people in the correct direction. So I think that deals with that.
Yeah.
Let's deal then with social media influencers. I mean, social media is a very dangerous tool.
Yeah.
These TikTok videos, these other platforms such as Instagram and Facebook or whatever, people are now posting things which can have a direct impact on your children.
Yeah.
Let's kind of take a step back and dissect what I mean. Okay. Watching a lot of food outlets promote their business in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got really nice, young-looking women trying to promote a business. Yeah. And it's, what are you looking at? What? Or you've got a chef who doesn't want to be happy and is somewhat threatening.
Yeah.
That has an impact upon the viewer.
Yes.
These young people actually think it's okay to speak like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a prime example is I was at a local leisure centre.
Yeah.
Not in a horrible way. There's a really nice kind of Asian lady behind me, fair skinned, really nice, well-to-do, on a mobile phone, speaking. What? Yeah, effing this, I had my kids with me, so I turned around and I said, excuse me, is it necessary for you to F and blind at every juncture? I mean, you're surrounded by your own kids, my kids, with nothing to you.
Yeah.
I've got family here, you've got other people looking at you. But before you answer my question, I said, I'm not being horrible, I'm not being nasty, I'm not picking on you. Just have a look in that mirror. Look at your face, how good looking you are.
Yeah.
Where you're standing. And her response to me was, well, everybody speaks like that.
Yeah.
I said, but you're not everybody.
Not really, no.
But you're not everybody. You're someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's wife, a mother.
Yeah.
A relation. And like, your kids there, my kids are there. Like, and she goes, but like, do I sound that bad? So don't ask me. I'm just having pleasant conversation with you whilst we're trying to get into the swimming pool. Ask others around you. And there was people there from different kind of walks of life. English people, black people, white people, Sikh people, Hindu people. And I said, yes, it's not nice. We accept everybody. We just kind of got into our conversation at that stage.
Yeah.
But stuff like that influences others.
It does, yeah.
So that F word becomes a normality.
Yes.
It's disgusting.
It is. Yeah.
The point I make is if you've got people in the community speaking like that, and then you've got influencers justifying certain form of derogatory behaviour, where do you stand? How do you prevent it?
That's a good question.
Because you can't simply be that parent who tells his kids, don't do this and don't do that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, a complaint's made to school or social services that we're restrictive at home and my father or my mother is, how can I say, controlling and coercive. And then you've got social services. So I don't have an answer for you. You've got to reach a proper medium, proper balance, and just try to do the best you can. So try to prevent those kind of negative influences. I can't say no more on that.
No, I mean, what you mentioned there, the example you gave, it's really important. And that leads me to my next question about, like, for example, what could parents, educators, and the communities that we are in, what could they do to help provide positive guidance, for example, and support to steer that young people going back to that criminal activities as well as, the social media platforms, how could we best guide them?
I think we'll deal with criminal activity in another topic. But let's deal with prevention. You know the old saying, prevention is better than the cure.
Yes.
Okay, that's an old saying. My experience, now I'm not a psychologist, I'm not somebody who's saying he's got years and years of experience, but what I can say is having been, and I'm sorry to say this, I was a naughty child. When it comes to the prevention limb, prevention is better than the cure. Okay? Now, it's easier said than done. And I give myself as an example. You're aware I've got 5 wonderful brothers and a younger sister.
Very good.
All very well to do, done well in life, and then you had me. Now, everybody above me was generation yes. Yes, Dad, I won't do this. Yes, Dad, I'll come in at this time. Yes, Dad, I won't cut my hair like this. Yes, Dad, I won't have that mobile phone. And then there was my generation, which was generation no. I'm going to do it on what? There's only so much slap you can get or mobile phone taken off you. Or your pocket money being taken off you before you become immune to any punishment. You become immune, isn't it? What's going to happen? The most is going to happen is my dad's going to say, I'm not allowed that. I'm what? Big deal. At least I went out and had a laugh. Do you know what I mean? But then you realise there's more to life than being helpless and hostile to your family. And that comes with experience. And the reason being is because you're going to have to grow out of it at some stage. You need to move on. You can't just simply get your pocket money off your mum and dad.
No.
You got to get an education. You got to get a job. You then look at your external influences and look at these people being arrested every 2 seconds and, antisocial behaviour and gang warfare with different people from a different neighbourhood. And then you think to yourself, is this good for me? And a point in life comes, well, it should come, it should come, where you think, no. So in response to your question, how do parents ring fence it? Your parents can't ring fence it if you're not willing to change. But a point does come, and I'm telling you it does come, where the individual himself wants to change. There's only so much police stations you can go through, and there's only so much, failing your exams where your friends are excelling, and there's only so much where you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and your mum wants to make you a chapati. Do you know what I mean? At some stage, somebody's going to tell you to get lost, repel, get on with it, mate. So it's one of a number of reasons and influences and points in life which will lead to that change.
Definitely. And I think I had somebody coming to me and crying because he failed his GCSEs. A young lad. I mean, he was quite harsh on himself, to be fair, because he hasn't been in the country for too long, been a year and a half, but coming here with no English skills whatsoever, learning a little bit, and then not getting the GCSEs, but he wanted to go college, and he needed help. So I did guide, and eventually he got enrolled into college, but he said where he came from, for example, from Afghanistan, he was naughty kid there as well, and then he came here and he could have worked hard. And I said, but I think you've been harsh to yourself because you've only been to school here for about a year and a half. You learn English and you're expecting now to pass all GCSEs, which people goes from nursery all the way up to year 11 and still fails to pass the GCSEs. He's still there, but he was kind of remembering that his past, that, you know what, I was being naughty there and I wish I worked hard in Afghanistan. And here, when he looked at some of the positive influences within the community, he kind of interlinked and said, no, I want to do better. He's now excelling. But I think that naughtiness, you know...
you can't, the novelty wears off.
Absolutely,
But just a point, and I think I'm going to highlight on that, is he was upset that he failed his GCSEs.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very big turning point, because he accepts that he's done wrong.
Yeah.
We've got people in our community who don't understand or appreciate the significance of those GCSEs until they're 30.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then they regret. The fact that this young brother has acknowledged that he never passed and perhaps should have worked that hard, and he's only been in the country for a limited period of time. I take my hat off to him.
No, thank you.
And you pass on my sentiments, because you acknowledge you could have done better. You want to do better. Trust me, this guy's going to go places.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another dilemma or problem that this particular individual and also the likes of him that goes through is the immigration system as well, because they're coming here, for example, not legally, or they arrive to the UK undocumented, and then they have that stress to go through as well, and then they want to learn, and then they got family back home to support as well. So there's lots of things going on in these people's lives, and they appreciate the opportunity.
So just to come back on that, let's deal with the unaccompanied minor. The unaccompanied minor who comes via a dinghy or through the British coast, or alternatively via an agent through Eurostar or a plane. It's called unaccompanied minors. It's horrible. If you're an unaccompanied minor under the age of 18, you're brought into a system where you have no documentation. You're not given a 5-star service. Far from it. You're probably going to go into some form of social services help, foster caring, up until such time you're of age that you can move on and integrate into society. That said, you still don't know any English. You've been put into a mainstream school, probably in Colchester or Dover, where it's, let's just say, it's not, how can I say, that well diverse as inner city Birmingham and London is. And therefore you're facing those hostilities. You've got to kind of mix into that kind of environment. You still have the outstanding issue in as far as your immigration is concerned. You have no access to your parents or family as to where they are, their well-beings, or the political climate currently in Afghanistan, or as it was. I used Afghanistan as an example. It could be Sierra Leone, it could be somewhere else in the world. But the thing is these are all kind of influences and dilemmas you have to deal with. So where do you go? Thankfully, a lot of these young people, and I'm going to say this openly, it doesn't matter where they're from. Could be Afghanistan, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, another part of the world, where people come. Albania is another one. But a lot of these people are hungry. They want to get into education. They embrace the educational system.
They do.
And a proper cross-reference I can make is where I had a young kid from Albania was getting into trouble. Thankfully, we were able to save him, and he was kind of pushed into education and is now a doctor. UK registered, done well. And speaking to him, and he explained to me, and his words, not mine, bruv, I said, why did you do it? And he said, bruv, education's free.
Well, yes.
People don't understand in the UK, the key to life is education, and it's free. And I kind of got onto it at an early opportunity where I thought, if I do this, then this leads on to this. I don't need to do this without doing this. And it'll give me kind of the foundation for life. So the point he was making was, and coming back to the unaccompanied minors, which is a lot of the people use the education system to their advantage.
Absolutely.
And they do excel. But you've got to do it.
Absolutely. Let me ask you on this. There are some people, or maybe a good amount of people, who don't take that benefit of the education system or other opportunities that's being provided in the UK. So, and then they come in and then they go down the drug stealing or the criminal routes. What do you think would be some of the most effective strategies? You talked about the prevention earlier.
Diversion.
Or how do we kind of divert them and say, look, that criminal activities, because they're new in the country, they don't know the culture, they don't know the law, and they might meet the wrong company here, and they'll just take them through that route. So how could we kind of divert them? Absolutely.
Okay. Firstly, it's recognised that there is the concept of modern day slavery. Okay, and modern day slavery is where young persons of a particular background or mental kind of state are used to literally progress criminal needs of organised crime groups or others to their advantage. A prime example is drug dealing. Sell my drugs on the road. And then you come back to big drug dealer and give him the proceeds or the gains. Your question is very simple. How do we divert? Well, firstly, you've got to look at the relevant person.
Yeah.
Could be somebody, for example, from a country where he's claiming asylum here.
Yeah.
This person has no money, doesn't know any better, maybe in touch with his family in the host country, and needs to send money home.
Yes.
Highly unlikely that he's going to get a job because there's an immigration restriction preventing him from working.
Yes.
Or alternatively, he's too young to get a job, and therefore, needs some form of sustenance with a view to fending for himself and or other third parties.
Yeah.
Now, nobody's in a well, yes, I can't say that's wrong. You may, in certain circumstances, be forced into criminal activity.
Yeah.
But in other situations, it may be the case that you find it the easiest option. If you're finding it the easiest option, don't. Because at some stage you will be arrested, caught, and then you're going to be dealt with in one of a number of ways. Yeah. Alternatively, if you can't get out of it, you're going to have to report it to the authorities. You're going to have to take that brave step to say, look, I am being used. If you're a young person at school, tell it to your head teacher, school teacher, report it to the police. If you're a carer or a family member, you need to understand and identify these issues at the earliest opportunity. If you think your son, child, party that's living with you is now living in a parallel universe where one day they were going to school, now the next day they are not bothered, shirt out, smoking, coming home late, hates the sight of you, then you've identified that there's an issue there.
Yes.
You will need to raise it with either social services, we'll make a referral onto the police to say whether or not this young person's the victim of modern day slavery. Yeah. Alternatively, school, so they can keep contact with this young person, see what's happening at school. Yeah. It may be the case he's not a victim of modern day slavery. It may be the case that he's a victim of bullying and he just kind of hates himself and can't report it. There's one of a number of reasons. But the key thing there is identification by loved ones, acting upon it, not turning a blind eye, and engaging with the relevant authorities. Early intervention is key. Yes. There's no point you saying my son or person or brother is a horrible person 5 years after he's got 10 convictions. If you think somebody's done wrong, you need to act upon it. Early intervention, in short.
Thank you for that. I think that answered my next question as well. But let me move on to another one. So, say for example, when somebody gets into trouble, criminal activity, and they're being kind of proven, guilty and stuff. What happens? Like, what would be then the consequences on their long-term life?
I'm so happy you brought this question up. And for me, I clearly live within a diverse community, both in London and in Birmingham. And I'm exposed to two major cities in the United Kingdom. And a lot of the issues are the same, which is antisocial behaviour. And a lot of the people who get involved in antisocial behaviour have immigration issues or outstanding cases, or they've got indefinite or are waiting for citizenship, and they're making their own relevant applications. Now, here's where it goes pear-shaped. Now, you've been a model student or a normal person, and it's, say, for example, Eid Day. And you go down in your wisdom to Southall Broadway or Birmingham Alamut Road. And you think it's good to jump up and down and do the Afghanistan, which is not a problem. No. But it becomes horrible when you start throwing things at one another and start being antisocial against police officers. Especially, irrespective, you shouldn't do it, but especially when you've got ongoing immigration issues. An issue is not necessarily a problem with the immigration service. It could be an outstanding claim for naturalization or indefinite or an extension, or the fact that you may have come over here as a dependent of somebody already settled here, for example, a spouse, and you're waiting to get that kind of status. And you in your wisdom get arrested for a public order offence. It could be two fingers to a police officer or a push in the wrong place or a spit or whatever happens. In your boisterous behaviour because you think, it's cool, it's fun, there's people watching you, there's people recording you. All right? Now, this is a real life case. I've got somebody who approached me yesterday and said, I'm calling. So what's up? He says, I've got an outstanding case with the immigration service where I've got indefinite applying for an extension. Oh, that would joke for me. Last Eid, I went to Alamut Road and I thought it'd be fun to shake a police car and one of us making no admissions.
That's fine.
One of us making no admissions kicked the side panel and I've got arrested for criminal damage. And I looked at this.
Yeah.
I couldn't explain.
Yeah.
I never had it in my heart to say to him, brother, you got some serious problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something as minor as that. Being equipped with and understanding immigration law, having represented people in the criminal world for the last 22 years, something as minor as that is going to have a serious knock-on effect upon your application.
Yes.
So I just asked him, I said, well, young man, are you intending to plead guilty or not guilty? And his words were, it was just a side wing clip and I just kicked it. So, okay, that's criminal damage.
Yeah.
It's low-level criminal damage. Yeah. Aggravating features are it was in a public place, belonging to police, likely to cause mass disorder, threats were used, and these are all aggravating features. But irrespective, you're going to be making an application for an extension of your current stay. That's going to cost you a couple of £1,000. Yeah. That's outstanding because this case is outstanding, so you can't progress that application because of this outstanding police issue. But irrespective, if you plead guilty to this, you're going to clearly be making an application for citizenship. Yeah. And that's going to clearly be used against you when it comes to giving you citizenship on the good character requirements. So it may be the case that you don't even get your citizenship after all this. And you still, I think you still have to apply, travel on the Schengen visa or whatever it is. I don't know how it is, but that's how it was then. Yeah. And he kind of looked at me and goes, but nobody told me that. Yeah. I said, well, how long has your case been ongoing? He said, look, the last 12 months coming up to it, but what do I do? I says, well, you pray first, and hopefully they don't proceed with it. Yeah. And if they do, you get a good immigration solicitor who makes representations to the officer to explain what it was, the fact that this is your age, no convictions, no cautions, moved on in life, not been arrested again, willing to make compensation and beg for forgiveness. Yeah. You know, hopefully you don't get that. And he was just kind of shook. Yeah. In response to your question, what are the knock-on effects? That was just a little example of how minor antisocial behaviour could have a knock-on effect. Yeah. Let's go to the extreme now. Okay?
Yes, please, yeah.
Clearly, again, I represent people from all walks of life.
Yes.
And you've got, your status can be revoked on national security grounds. Okay. It could be revoked if you're deemed not conducive to public good. So, for example, let's do the middle ground, not the extreme. The middle ground is if you commit an offence, usually drug dealing or serious violence, the Home Secretary will try to revoke your status and say that you're not conducive to public good. Okay. And say get lost, appeal it. Do you understand? Yeah. And that's a whole different rigmarole of a hearing where you go to the immigration service, argue a right to life, family. I haven't been to Congo, Sierra Leone, Africa, Afghanistan, Pakistan. All my life I was born here, and try to explain to them that it was a one-off offending scenario. If, of course, you've committed a whole culmination of offences and continue to offend, it's likely that you'll be on the next flight back to wherever you've come from or your family are from, and therefore that's where you're going. Okay. That's because you thought it was good. And that's even before you decide to give up your criminal activities and grow up and mature. There's always that there. In the extreme, I've had cases recently, during COVID actually, a year and a half ago, where I had prominent members from the Afghan community. Full refugee status, left the country, went to Pakistan to see family members, and the Home Secretary revoked their citizenship on national security grounds.
Okay, that refugee status.
And they were provided information to say that these individuals were not conducive to public good. Okay. And therefore revoked everything. They were sent an email, or WhatsApp, no, one of them got a WhatsApp letter refusal. Wow. One of them got an email from the Home Secretary saying, it was Priti Patel at the time, goodbye mate, you're not coming back in, this is what it is, out of country appeal, what are you going to do? So on probing them and asked them, look, what happened, like, what's going on? Nothing. They're literally prominent businessmen, and there's nothing there, but their case is an extreme now. It's going through the SIAC procedures, the Special Immigration Appeals Committee, whereby it's held in private. Okay. When I certainly dealt with SIAC cases a long time ago, it would be the case where you had a King's Counsel, QC, who directly liaised with the Home Office's people. And we only got to see the person once. But we were never kind of told what they talked about. They were not allowed to tell us because it was national security stuff. Okay. We were the lawyers for their client, and we had our own solicitor, their barrister. We were only dealing with the redacted stuff, the information in the public domain. Now, you've got a chap whose status has been refused on national security grounds. His wife and children are still here, by the way.
Okay.
And his businesses have gone to pop because there's nobody there to manage these businesses.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with a case where the state is saying you are a national security threat.
Okay.
Why? Because this guy's gone somewhere and somebody said something and tipped somebody off, and now this is what it's led to.
Okay.
And that's an extreme. Do you really want that headache?
No.
You don't want that headache.
No. Yeah. So that's the visa aspect of this criminality is one part, for example, especially applied to more like the immigrants, for example. What would be some of the other impact of certain activities in crime?
Shamima Begum.
Yeah, so we come to that in a bit. But like, for example, say if somebody is being brought up here or was born here to a British families and stuff, and they commit a crime.
Yeah.
What happens to their like future prospect, for example, their jobs, their family, and their everything.
Let's deal with the British lad.
Yeah.
Someone like me, born and brought up here. God forbid, I commit a crime. I hope I never commit a crime. But anyway, you commit a crime. Certain offences are called minor offences, very minor offences for which you'll be given an out-of-court disposal, something like a caution or a community resolution, usually spent when you're given it. Alternatively, the duration of the caution comes to an end. Okay. Alternatively, certain offences are very serious offences that have a lifespan on it, and they come up on an enhanced DBS check or a DBS check. And in short, remember, you may have moved on, you may have made that one mistake, lapse of judgment, went out for a night out, got into trouble, took something, didn't mean to do it, you moved on, but it comes to sting you in your backside.
Yes.
So in short, the response is quite simple. The DBS checks are there. Just because you're a good kid doesn't mean the state thinks you're a good kid or a prospective employer may think you're a good kid. It may even be the case that in certain situations where the conviction becomes spent after a certain period of time, you think, I can now apply for this job. But unfortunately, on an enhanced DBS check, it still comes up. And as an employer, would you really want to take somebody on who's got this kind of conviction?
No.
In short, it's always there in the iCloud something. Something will be there for it to make us smile. Yeah?
Thank you for that. That's very important because I know lots of young kids being born here, as you said, and they think, okay, they can get away with everything, and then they do something nasty, and then they think, okay, couple of years, it's on my record, and then it's washed up. And then, like, especially the indication to the DBS, especially if they want to become like teachers, for example.
Teachers, security guard,
security
vulnerable
guard,
positions.
or want to go on, and then as you age, you become more wise, for example. They want to go and serve the community, become police officers or other security national personals. Then it becomes challenging.
Of course it is.
Let me ask you about Shamima Begum. You hinted to it towards earlier. A British-born girl, 15 years of age, in a secondary school, goes to Syria, and then now, obviously, everything's been revoked. Her citizenship, she's not allowed to come back. Lost 3 children.
My views.
Yeah, so your views on Shamima Begum.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay, let's do the political aspect first. Her status was revoked. She was a dual citizen. Bangladesh as well. I think Bangladesh have told to get lost, we don't want you as well. And as far as Shamima Begum is concerned, it's quite simple. The Court of Appeal have ruled that national security prevails over the fact that she was a young person and trafficked, and therefore it's a national security reason. I kind of touched upon the fact that her case was dealt with under the Special Immigration Appeals Committee, the SIAC provisions, whereby her status was revoked summarily whilst she was in a camp in Syria, and she received that letter whilst trying to get back to the United Kingdom. And she's been fighting ever since to come back to the United Kingdom, arguing the fact that she was trafficked. And if anything, she was the victim of sexual exploitation as well, and groomed. So that's what she's arguing. Question, what do I think as a lawyer, and what do I think as a person? What I thought initially of the whole unfortunate situation as a person was you made your bed, you lied. Initially. Until I looked into this case, and as a defence lawyer who deals with modern day slavery issues all the time, understanding how people are vulnerable, especially when it comes to young persons. There's case law on this, which goes on to state just because a person reaches the age of 18, it doesn't automatically mean that that person has reached a certain degree of maturity and therefore can make life-changing decisions. The brain is still kind of developing until 25. Putting that to one side, again, modern day slavery, sexual exploitation. just because somebody hasn't committed a crime per se, it doesn't mean they're not being exploited, mentally groomed. Do you understand?
Right.
Then having that all in arm and understanding her family dynamics, that the current political climate they're in, I think she should be allowed back into the country.
Okay.
I think it was a very ill-formed judge decision by me at that time when I initially looked at the case to think she shouldn't be allowed back into the country. I think when you look at all the information provided, okay, I think she's been given a raw deal.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of criminals out there who have committed heinous crimes, and I can understand why the government would not want that. But you've got to take into account one's personal situation, loss of children, maturity, how she went there, what she's been through, coupled with the fact that what has she done, what criminal activity has she been engaging in. Now that falls into the SIAC provisions, i.e. that's national security information, they can't disclose that. But if you can't disclose it, you can't check the veracity of what it is she said to have done.
Yes. Yeah.
So how then can she defend herself? It's like chasing your tail. If you think I'm saying it's a government decision on public policy grounds, it's a vote winner. I'm not a political person.
No.
But certainly I will kind of raise an eyebrow. But I won't say it openly. Because again, I'm not privy to that information. So do I think she should be allowed back into the country? Yes.
Okay.
Do I think there should be certain form of sanctions, safeguarding us? Of course.
Yes.
Remember, she's been in a hostile environment. God knows what she's been exposed to. Why would she want to come back in the first place? When she left us. But again, everybody has the right.
Absolutely.
And it's her right that's been used.
I do agree with you on her coming back to the country. And the way I look at it as an educator, I think her coming back with the obviously without. I don't know much about the political side, as you mentioned, because I'm not a politician, but putting sanctions, putting safeguarding, whatever in place for her, then using Shamima Begum to kind of spread the awareness of what is it like, to be in those hostile positions in those countries. So, for example, she could go to other schools and spread the awareness, saying, look, I've been told this. I was asked to do this. I've done it. I've been stupid, for example, at that stage. Please don't fall into it.
A real life mentor.
Absolutely. I think, just looking at it, that from that angle as an educator, I do think she should be coming back.
Well, we agree. I think a lot of education, a lot of leading people do say she should be back. But unfortunately, if you look at some of the comments on the various platforms, it seems that there's a lot of hostility towards her and her faith.
Yeah, I think so. I've got two questions on that. One is, according to the Wikipedia of Shamima Begum and some of the information that I've looked into, prior her leaving the UK as a 15 years old girl, the Islamic State smuggler was feeding the information to a Canadian intelligence. And that Canadian intelligence was in contact with the Metropolitan Police here in the UK. So they kind of knew that she was going. And still didn't put any preventive strategy in place. Maybe they could have stopped her in the airport and said, excuse me, where are you going? Who are you?
So you're right in that point, because I've dealt with cases like that where people are trying to leave the country, for example, back then to a place like Mauritania in Yemen, where the Metropolitan Police would stop a person from leaving, Border Force as well, take their passports off them, and if anything, cite, and in the more serious cases, charge them with criminal offences under terrorism legislation, which included commission, preparation, and instigation acts of terrorism. So yes, that was there. As to why the net failed, or whether or not the fact that two were actually engaging with one another, we're never going to know. That's national security stuff. But yes, if that is the case, and that's what's been tabled, and that's what's come out, then there's absolutely no reason why the Metropolitan Police and Border Force should have not stopped 2-3 young children travelling abroad unaccompanied.
Absolutely. My last question on Shamima Begum is this. Had Shamima Begum been from the general population, for example, let's say if she was a white girl, would the result be different of her coming back to the country and all of that issues that she's facing?
Look, there's a test at the moment here where we're talking about the unknown, but there's actually a Middle England woman who's been hunted worldwide, referred to as the White Widow. Aylesbury born, I think she is. The English Rose. Implicated in many terrorist activity across the globe, I think. That's what they're saying. It's not me. It'll be, let's see, how can I deal with this? It'll be interesting to see whether or not this young lady ever surfaces and says, I want to come back to the United Kingdom. And then a parallel has to be reached, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at this stage, I can't answer that. But what I can say is you've got a question mark which may come to fruition to see whether or not she'll be given the same treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, that's very understandable, Mohammed. This backstream immigration specialist who tells people or kind of exploit these immigrants, for example, asking them for lots of cash and then saying, I guarantee you a visa or success here in the UK, for example. Some people then end up becoming luckier and receive the visa, and most people don't. And some people says, okay, give me £5,000 or £7,000, and then they kind of taking that case on a legal aid basis, but then still exploit people and take cash as well. What's your overall intake on that?
Look, the sad thing is it happens. And the reason why it happens is because you see on occasion in the solicitors or the barristers from the magazine, we have the Gazette or other news bulletins that immigration practices, solicitors' offices, immigration advisories have been raided and have provided two-tier kind of advice. Number two advice, where it's manufactured advice, alternatively manipulating the system. It shouldn't happen. You can make payment by way of cash, but make sure you get a receipt. All the solicitor or the advisor should ask you is provide relevant information and documentation, such as a driving license, passport, ID document, a bill, just to confirm where the money's come from, source of funds, bank statement. So what? It's your life at the end of the day. If it doesn't, think to yourself, why not? Just because somebody else got their case doesn't mean this person can do it for you. No one case is the same. Furthermore, if you're being extorted and somebody is withholding your papers because they want payment of XYZ amount of money until they release this document, then you've got to think to yourself, something's gone wrong. The key to this is complaining. Complain. You're not in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sierra Leone or anywhere else where somebody's going to kidnap you. Use the complaints procedure to your advantage.
Well, thank you for that. My last question would be what's your advice to the youth and general people, especially the ethnic minority community in the UK, how best they can keep their nose clean and stay away from the criminal activities and drug dealing?
Unless you're particularly stupid, you're going to know what criminal activity is. Alternatively, nasty, you want to be a criminal. It's quite simple. There's a correct way of doing things and there's a wrong way of doing things. There's not this notion of, getting away with it. Because if you've done it 98% of the time, you're going to be convicted of this. And that's a Home Office statistic. Look on the Home Office websites. Anyway, put that to one side.
Right. Thank you for that. Let me ask you a quite different question. We've seen quite recently lots of criminal defense solicitors stepping into politics for various reasons. Why aren't you stepping into politics as well?
Let me just dissect it first of all. A lot of politicians are ex-lawyers.
Yes.
Go from Tony Blair, I think it was, or whoever it was, to recent times. So it's not a new phenomenon. Dealing then with recent people who want to go into politics, I'm not interested. And with politics, you have to make pledges. And with pledges, you've got to have policies. There's no point me pledging on something which I know is never going to come to fruition. An example is rubbish on the roads, or alternatively, taxi drivers not being able to drive in bus lanes. Those are minor, minuscule kind of pledges.
Think so,
but in the grander scheme of things, there's proper pledges you have to make from local government, schooling, policing. Now, for example, just with the policing part of it, I'm a defence lawyer. I am a defence lawyer. I defend people. Yet I'm propagating more policies and more policing on the road. There's a conflict.
There's a conflict of interest. Absolutely.
And again, when you do, for example, go into politics, you make pledges and promises, but sometimes you have to give those up. I'm a principled person. I can't give things up when I've made a promise on it, letting people down, and not criticising the whole of the political sphere. But I know it's all going to end in tears at some stage, and I'm not really interested.
And social media influencer and defence solicitor, Mr. Ahmed Yaqub, who's currently running for the mayorship of West Midland on 2nd of May. What do you think about his approach into politics, because he's sharing the same field as you, and now he's stepping into politics, saying that he's voice for the voiceless, especially the Gaza issue, and we have lots of issue here in West Midland as well.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about his approach into politics?
I take my hat off to him. Firstly, I wish him every success.
Yeah.
Will I be voting for him? Yes, I will.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because he has come across, certainly as far as that Gaza issue, to stand up for the vulnerable. He really does speak passionately about the issues, not only in Gaza, but Kashmir as well.
Yes.
And other areas affected.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just make the mark there.
Yeah.
And as far as whether or not I think he can make a change, I don't think he can.
Okay.
Should he have split the vote? Again, that's up to him. Everybody's entitled to split the vote between the Labour and the Conservative and those old parties that always come to fruition.
Yeah.
Do I think he can make a change? Well, those are his pledges and his promises. And he'll be certainly letting down a lot of people if he can't deliver.
Yeah.
Now, not being able to deliver is different to saying something to get a vote.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you've said something to get a vote and not being able to deliver, then you're in problem territory.
Yeah.
A final point I make is these are very big positions people are going for. Now, whether you be from the Yemeni community or the Pakistani community or the Iraqi community or the English community or the Irish community, we need somebody who can stand up for us, not just based on one issue, which is the Palestinian issue, but it's a major issue. Yeah. Okay, and needs to be sorted. But at the same time, we've got home problems.
Yes.
We've got policing issues. We've got rubbish on the roads. We've got antisocial behaviour. You've got issues in relation to vulnerable children, mental health, lack of investment in mental health. There's a whole culmination of things which need to be addressed, which need proper policies being made and advocacy being for them to go forward and for changes to be made.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's got a mammoth of a task ahead against him. Please don't let us down.
Yeah. Oh, we do wish him the best, and we root for him for his success. Because I think you mentioned he's a very outspoken person. Yeah. He has stood up for some of the issues that are very important to people, and I think that's his chance now to make, all of those pledges that he has made. Yeah. And I hope if he wins, that he can deliver. Yeah. And we have a prosperous city like in West Midland and also across the globe. We're coming towards an end now. Yeah. You are a super busy man from what I know about you. Again, engaging within 2 different cities, your career, everything. But every time I come to the gym, you are there before me. Right? You're one of the person who's beating me into it. Right? Well, being from having that sport and exercise public health expertise, I know how important engaging in exercise is. And one of or the 3 leading barriers to physical activity or exercise that people has outlined in our research and most of other research: lack of time, workload, resources, or energy. But you're busy, so you should have lack of time, or which I'm sure you are, struggling with the time. Distance, you're sometime in London, sometime you're in Birmingham. Energy as well, because you in and out of the coast, which is great. And I'm also looking into some of the stats. For example, British South Asians are having the worst health and rest of Europe. But mashallah, you are kind of beating all of those stats.
Beating the norm.
Kind of, yeah. So tell us, how are you keeping that exercise routine? And what's your advice to young people as well as those who are saying, I don't have time, or 9-to-5 job, and I lack energy. So overall, what do you think?
Okay, let's deal with it again. Yeah. Being in the gym at 6-7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I try to go to the gym every single day. Yeah. The reason being is because if I don't, then I know I'm not going to be. It gets testosterone going, and you're kind of supercharged. Especially if those people who know me and get to watch this podcast will know how I am in court or at the office or at a police station when I've been to the gym, and it helps mentally. But how I do it and why I got into it. So the why I got into it is I've got a business partner, Mr. Habib, and he's the ultimate warrior when it comes to training. And, he was always supercharged, and I thought to myself, what's wrong with this bloke, man? Just chill out. But anyway, got me into it. And ever since then, it's been go, 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 go. And the way I got into it was when you wake up in the morning, do your morning prayers, and just get to the gym.
Yeah.
Do not think about it.
Yeah.
If you think about it, or you think now later on, give me an hour, 20 minutes more, you're not going to get to the gym. Okay, so that's the first part. There's the second and third part. Once you get to the gym, it becomes very addictive.
Yes, you do.
People don't seem to understand this. It's that testosterone, that adrenaline rush, that sweat that goes and runs down your back when you're training, and you're training with a good crew who are pushing you and you're pushing them, but also having a laugh and a joke about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the average crew that go to the gym are very miserable kind of looking.
Yeah.
Well, the people I train with, excuse the phrase, but they're piss takers. They have a laugh. They'll wind you up. They'll push you to that level where they make it enjoyable, but you're making progress. So that's the second part of it. The third part of it, as to maintaining it. Well, thankfully, I've been to all these posh clubs, and I've been to some exclusive gyms, which don't work for me. I think the gym group works for me because they've got they've got gyms all over the country and in different cities, where you can just clock in.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I used to do as well.
So I've got my bag with me. Usually when I go to the port, people think I'm mad. I have my gym stuff with me. And if I see a gym group and I finish what, I just bang out a session, quickly jump in, do a 45 minutes, a 50-minute, if not 1 hour max gym session, proper full circuit on a specific body part, and then move on. Why I do it is because it keeps me mentally kind of there, healthy as well. And when I'm in the gym, it prevents me from doing stupid stuff, such as smoking again. It took me 30 years to stop smoking, and God forbid I ever want to touch a cigarette ever again. And when you're training, you don't want to do bad things. No. Because you're making progress. You're making progress. Absolutely. And you don't want to kind of jeopardize that. But then on a final note, touch wood, I'm up to 48, and they look at your peers and that they're of a particular type, they're not like, broken teeth and big pot bellied and got all sorts, and you look different, and then they look at you like, how did you do that? And then you say, look, I'm in the gym, come to the gym. So then they then get in on it. And you kind of motivate others. Absolutely. And as a doctor, you understand physical fitness is key to mental agility and progressing. Absolutely. So that's another reason why I do it. There's an incorrect way of doing things. An incorrect way of doing things is usually rushing things, not doing properly, copying somebody else, wanting to get a shortcut, earn money without working for it. That's all hallmarks of somebody not being bothered. Somebody not being bothered. Not being put the work in. And then there's the correct way of doing things, which is wanting to excel in life. If it's written, you're going to get it. Yes. Okay. Putting the time in, breaking barriers, trying to achieve the best, going for gold, making sure you put the time and effort into an examination. What I used to do was, if I had an exam, say for example, we're now in April, I'd be revising, if I had an exam, say, in June, I would start revising the 1st of April. The time into my exam. Come a week before the exam, I'd already done my revision. I'm just going through test papers and making sure I'm all right, I'm not panicking. So you've got to put the time in. You've got to have a plan A, plan B, and plan C. Sometimes we all don't get our plan A's. Not everybody's going to become a Premier League footballer. No. Do you understand? So you're going to have a plan B. And if the plan B doesn't work, there's got to be a plan C. Absolutely. And that doesn't work, have a plan, have a plan, have a plan. Do something, do it properly, invest in yourself, move forward. The rest is down to luck. At the end of the day, some people do make it big. Others worked hard all their lives and are still, just at the level they were. Because personal circumstances don't allow them. So on a final note, it's your life. Do as you please. But don't waste it and become another statistic. Absolutely. Well, Mohammed, thank you so much for your time, for this much needed insight. And I think people, whoever watches this episode, I think they're going to really get that insight into the criminal activities and the consequences in particular, and the examples that you have outlined. I think this is much needed for, especially within the ethnic minority community, so that the education awareness can be increased. So I really appreciate your time and thank you so much. Okay? Anytime. See you soon. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.